Call the meeting to order. I hate to interrupt all your visiting, but we do have a schedule to keep. We'll call the meeting to order, stand for a moment of silent reflection, then the Pledge of Allegiance led by Leanne Hollingsworth.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is to review and approve the agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to make a change in the agenda in any way?
I'd make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? If not, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is the consent agenda. It will be read into the record by Holly Hennis.
Good morning, Commissioners. Holly Hennis, your office manager. For public disclosure, the Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today, I have placed the following 12 items on the consent agenda for your consideration. Minutes of the regular meeting from October 2nd, 2012. Approval of the vouchers in the amount of $2,682,983.97. Authorization to cancel outstanding checks over 1 year old submitted from the auditor's office. Approval of commission signatures on certificates of appreciation for volunteer fire departments and mutual aid partners from the commission. Approval of the chairman's signature on the warrant of appointment for Highway Superintendent Heine Junge for a 2-year term. Request approval of the fourth quarter state and local agreement report submitted from Emergency Management. Request approval to bid the Emergency Services West Tower construction project submitted by the Emergency Services Users Board. Request for approval of the exchange of snow routes memorandum of understanding with the City of Rapid City submitted from the Highway Department. To schedule a public hearing on November 9th, 2012 for General Fund Supplement SP 12-025 of the John T. Vikurovich budget. Another, to schedule a public hearing on November 9th, 2012 for General Fund Supplement SP 12-026 for the Emergency Management budget. To recognize the volunteers for the month of September 2012. And finally, to request authorization to surplus vehicles and authorization to order a 2013 replacement vehicle submitted by Search and Rescue on behalf of the Sheriff's Department.
Thank you. Does anyone wish any of the consent agenda items removed from the list?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would like number 11 removed, please.
Okay, number 11 has been removed. Any others? If not, Chair would entertain a motion of items 5 through 16 with 11 removed.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as amended. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 11.
Mr. Chairman, the only reason I want that removed is because it is a tower being placed on property owned by Department of Military Affairs in the state of South Dakota. And since my wife works for National Guard and has been involved in some of that, I wish to not vote on that issue and abstain from it.
Is that question subject to the approval of the rest of the board?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Is there a motion relative to item 11?
I'll move to approve the
authorization to bid the West Tower construction for emergency services.
Second.
There's motion and a second, and in order to keep the record straight, we'll call for a roll call vote.
Mr. Chair, before that roll call vote, I'd just like to think, I believe it's Robert's Rule of Order says that abstention is a yes vote, so thank you.
Okay, Busker is abstaining from the vote.
Correct.
That's correct.
Davis,
Yes.
Holloway,
Yes.
Troutman, Peterson.
Yes. Just argue with Commissioner Davis, it just means it's not a negative vote. But anyway, next item of business, Commissioner Buskerud will make a presentation on behalf of the County Association.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you remember, a couple weeks ago, we had some certificates of appreciation for persons who have been employed by Pennington County for quite some time. And I guess, I don't know if we forgot one or if we just got one in late, but this one is certainly last but not least. It's a certificate of appreciation to Myrna Kobus, Pennington County Dispatch Supervisor, with the respect and appreciation for her 35 years of dedication, service, and commitment to county government. And I think she's here to accept the award.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next item, item 18, Central States Fair Board.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. I'm Ron Jeffries, General Manager, Central States Fair. I have a handout for you. I'm here before the Commission today to ask on behalf of Central States Fair for your permission to erect a sign on the Pennington County Fairgrounds. The proposed sign you see before you is a digital sign measuring 8 foot by 14 foot with log legs or posts to hold it up, which matches the log entry gates on the fairgrounds. The second page shows you to the right-hand side of that page, the pink block shows you the approximate location nearly midway between San Francisco streets and Center streets for placement of the sign. Sign will be paid for by Central States Fair and Central States Fair Foundation and private donations. Will not use county funds. This issue will go before the City Sign Code Board of Appeals tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. The reason it goes before the Sign Code Board of Appeals is the sign request here is for an 8 foot by 14 foot sign. The new city sign ordinance, and I do not profess to be a expert in the city sign code or design and construction of signs, but the new city sign code maximum allowable size is for a 6 by 10 foot sign. Previously, the sign code did allow for a public purpose exception, and in the new sign ordinance, that particular exception has been removed. So everything falls under either an on-premise or off-premise sign. This particular case would fall as an on-premise sign promoting events and activities on the fairgrounds. The amount of frontage that you have on Campbell Street would actually allow for about 9 signs that would be 6 foot by 10 foot in size. We're not requesting 9 signs at all. We're looking for 1 sign that would be larger than the maximum currently required or currently allowed, but certainly well within the number of signs that would be permitted on the properties. Open for questions.
Any questions?
So Ron, tomorrow you go through the hearing and then you will, there's another meeting as that right?
Well, what will happen currently is that since it's an exception to the existing sign code, you're before the Sign Code Board of Appeals. They meet tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. and they can approve it, they can deny it, or they can move it forward without recommendation to the City Council. At any point, with any sign going up in the city that does not meet the existing or the standards currently established, I anticipate that it'll be before the City Council.
Any other questions or comments? So you're seeking a action by this board to give you the permission or deny the permission to go forward?
Correct. What it would be, Commissioner Peterson, our original intention was to find out what the city would allow and then come back and present that to you to say, here's what the city will allow. Will you accept that as a donation from Central States Fair to Pennington County? In a matter of expediting things from our last meeting, perhaps I did not think that through clearly and thought maybe we should come to the county before we go to the city. I may be before you again if the city chooses to not accept the particular proposal as it is, which means that if we come back later, it may be for a two-sign setup, two different signs, 6 by 10 rather than one 8 by 14. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just because I received a phone call on this, are you bidding this sign, or has it been bid already, or what's the process that you're in?
The question came up about that, whether or not it was bid. I'll tell you that we've been working on this project for about 2 years utilizing Conrad Signs. Conrad Signs has been a long-term supporter and donor to the fairgrounds and a number of activities, as well as a contractor who's performed a number of services through the bid process. This particular sign, since it was not using any public monies, was not subject to any of the bid process.
Okay.
I did ask for an additional proposal from Rosenbaum Signs, but I have not seen a response at this time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to allow the Central States Fair to proceed with their sign request through the city channels.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Come forward.
Me or?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me.
Stay up here around, Terry. Terry with Lamar Advertising here in Rapid City, South Dakota. You know, I've been on the south side of a northbound cow a lot of times. Herding cattle, sorting cattle. One thing I've learned about sorting cattle, you can't sort one cow out of the chute. And it's hard to shut the gate. The whole herd's going to want out. And I can see by some of you that wearing cowboy boots, you understand what I'm saying. We would ask that no off-premise advertising be allowed, no sponsors be allowed. Civic Center is the Civic Center sign is probably a good example of that. By allowing that, I think you're open the gate, going to try to sort one cow out. Whole herd's going to want to get out, and you're going to have all kinds of problems. Ron and I visited about this before the meeting. Sound like we're pretty well on board with the same idea. No sponsors, no contracts, no money made off the sign, just for advertising only Central States Fair. I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, wait a minute. So you think that that's not going to happen?
You know, I think by allowing off-premise advertising on the sign, you're opening the gate, and you're going to.
But is that the intent now?
I'm sorry. I don't know what Ron's intent is. Again, we only had a couple minutes to visit about it, but we have no problem with the sign at all, except that. And we've been a good supporter.
Because I'm finding what you're saying confusing. I'm finding you saying that we shouldn't do it, but then it sounded like you talked.
No, I have no problem with it.
On the same boat that they weren't doing it.
The only thing I ask if you want to make an amendment to the motion is not to allow any off-premise advertising on there. No sponsorships will be allowed as per city Rapid City code. So I'm available for questions. I know this is a heated or controversial issue, but, you know, we have no problem with the sign at all except for that. Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Ron, as I recall in the conversation, that it was an on-premise sign, correct?
On-premise sign, correct.
So that means that it's going to be advertised in on-premise functions.
My understanding of on-premise advertising is this. On-premise advertising would allow you to say, Pepsi, 99 cents available on the fairgrounds. You could not say, Pepsi, 99 cents available at Big D down the street. That's my understanding of on-premise.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Brushwood.
Well, obviously, I'm going to vote against this for reasons I've stated very often, and I'm sure it'll pass anyway, so I won't waste anybody's time in further discussion.
Any other comments?
One thing I will say is that the Civic Center sign is considered an on-premise sign, and they do advertise off-premise advertising, so for what it's worth.
Well, hopefully we won't do what the city's doing.
I hope not either.
I mean, because that was my understanding when Ron come and talked to me, was that we were not going to advertise other than what is going on at the fairgrounds or what is going to be sold at the fairgrounds.
Yeah, the big question that Terry mentioned that comes up is, what do you do with sponsors? When you have Wrangler sponsoring a roping, can you say Wrangler roping within your programming? I think where the rub comes within the Civic Center sign mentioned is there are some services on that sign that in no way take place within the city properties. And I agree with Terry that that's inappropriate. I think that this sign needs to follow whatever the city ordinance would allow.
So in other words, you are going to advertise on it?
Define what you mean by that.
We all know.
I think it allows.
We all know what's going to happen out there. So.
I think it clearly allows for on-premise advertising because it's an on-premise advertising sign. But you cannot advertise for services that are not available on your facility.
Okay. Are we comfortable with the understanding relative to what will appear on the sign?
I think it's clear as mud.
What's that?
I think it's clear as mud.
Does the maker of the motion wish to add anything to it to clarify?
I think it's pretty well clarified. It's an on-premise sign, and that's what it's designed for. I don't think that he should be advertising car dealer down the street or whatever it may be.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
One more thing I think that needs to be clarified is, and their notice of hearing for variance, they have the property owner as a Central States Fair, which obviously it is not. So either you need to appoint Mr. Jeffries as your agent, or he needs to amend that.
I agree.
Is that something you can clarify tomorrow morning?
Or you could appoint me as an owner's representative if you choose. I don't know how that would work within the city application process.
I think that's appropriate.
So at this point, we'll vote on the existing motion and then make a separate motion to cover that issue. So we're going to call for a vote on the motion that's before us. And we'll just have a voice vote. All in favor of the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like a roll call vote.
Okay. Roll call vote.
No.
Davis?
Yes.
Holloway?
Yes.
Troutman? Yes. Peterson?
Yes.
4-1.
Next motion. Motion carried. Motion
So now you would need
to appoint
to appoint,
Ron Jeffries as the agent.
and I know I intend to be there as well. Ken or anybody else going to be there? in the
Quite
morning?
possibly.
Okay. So I just mentioning that in case you think you still need somebody.
Well, I think given what was the comment that was made, it would be useful to clarify for now and the future that Mr. Jeffries would be delegated to do this. So someone come forward with a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would make a motion to approve Ron Jeffries as a representative of Pennington County in items on the Central States Fairgrounds that have been approved by the county commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Jay, are you comfortable with that?
It says owner's personal representative.
It says on the application,
Sign.
it says owner's representative.
So if you want to be exact, have the motion say owner's representative.
Okay. We got that clarified? Anytime we're confusing you, Karen, just say, hold it. Okay, we have a motion and a second. We have it clarified. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
4-1, motion carried.
Thank you. I'll report
you.
back after the signed Board of Appeals.
Item 19.
Good morning. KJ Peterson, Chief Deputy Auditor. We have one hearing to supplement the budget, the 2012 budget. This has been posted. It is a supplement request for the general fund search and rescue budget in the amount of $64,666. This is from additional revenues that have been received this year, primarily supported by additional services that they bill back for, and they will now use those revenues for equipment purchases and a vehicle purchase.
Any discussion on item 19? Chair would entertain a motion.
Move to,
Go ahead.
move to approve the supplement to the 2012 general fund search and rescue budget in the amount of $64,666 from non-budgeted revenues received in the current year.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the budget supplement. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, you have 6 minutes. I need to make preliminary remarks, and then we will officially declare the hearing for the highway program open. So this is informational at this point.
Good morning, Heine Junge, Pennington County Highway Superintendent. Yes, we've prepared resolutions and a map revising the Pennington County highway system. We discovered through a database that we received from the state of South Dakota that they were relying on a 1939 resolution, and then resolutions preceding that and after that fact, and we discovered that there was a lot of streets, urban streets within the city of Rapid City and the city of Box Elder that have been, were still on the official highway system. And we also discovered there was a lot of roads that were misclassified as far as Pennington County was concerned. The state of South Dakota classifies most roads as arterials, collectors, major and minor collector, major and minor arterials, urban streets, and local roads. And that led us down the path where, in order to get the state of South Dakota data, their official data, and the county's data as far as our road system is concerned on the same level or the same information, it was necessary to revise our system. So I've prepared 3 resolutions. The first resolution is a resolution to delete roads, which that resolution, if approved, goes to the state of South Dakota, and the state of South Dakota will rely on a resolution to help correct our system. Any change, altercation, or modification to the county primary highway system has to be done by deletions and additions. And you see on that resolution that there's a bunch of deletions plus there's some additions. Once that resolution is passed, it's sent to the state of South Dakota. The Transportation Commission allows 60 days for public comment on that resolution, and then they will either approve it or deny it. And then I've also prepared a resolution where reclassifying the roads as urban streets and rural roads should really not be on the primary system. They should be a county secondary road. So I've prepared a resolution for county secondary roads, adding all those, rescinding all previous resolutions, and adopting this final resolution as our secondary system. And then a third resolution, which within organized townships, we have some county maintained roads that are rural roads that don't meet the definition to be on the county primary system. So they are classified as county aid roads, and there's a codified law that allows the commissioner to designate which roads are county aid roads. Those 2 resolutions are not in your packet. I do have a one on the PowerPoint I can show you. For some reason this morning as we was adding all the numbers up, I'm off 3.12 miles. So I have a glitch in our program, and hopefully when I get back, we'll get those minor deficiencies corrected and have an official resolution for signature later this afternoon. But the one I will show today is fairly accurate. So with that, I guess you can open it up to comments.
Is it appropriate that you, and can you comment briefly on the criteria that says this is a primary road, this is a secondary road, and so on?
Typically, the primary county highway system consists of FAS roads, which are federal aid roads. That is funds that we receive from the federal government passed to the state of South Dakota that can be spent for reconstruction of the FAS roads. And another part of that is the county highway system, which the commissioners designate as part of the primary system. Those roads function to tie one community to another community, to tie Pennington County to our adjoining counties, and take traffic from real dense urban centers and bring them into our major cities. And that's how the primary system functions. Once you get away from the primary system, then you have rural roads, and what the rural roads do is provide access from the actual resident to one of these collector or major primary system roads.
Okay. Thank you, Andy. We're at the 9:30 time limit, so this hearing is officially in progress, and you can take it from there.
I need just a clarification for me, if you wouldn't mind, before you get started. We're not actually adding any new roads to our system. We're changing the classifications of some of these roads. And in fact, we're taking some roads off that are in municipalities at this time.
Yes, we are adding a few short segments of road in the eastern part of the county. The state never had them on their system as county highways, and we feel they serve the purpose and definition of a primary county road. So, and you see them on the map now, I got to get it bigger, but the pieces of road in green
Okay.
We've treated them locally as county highway system roads, but the state of South Dakota doesn't recognize it. So in order to get the state to recognize those as primary county roads, we needed to add them. And one example is Bombing Range, which goes from Sandon County to Scenic area. They had that as a township road, listed as a township road, and it's a main road it's a collector road that funnels people into our area. So
these roads that you're talking about in green, we've been maintaining these roads in
oh yes,
the past.
Yep, we've been maintaining them and we've been treating them as county highways on the primary system, but the state didn't recognize them because they weren't on the 1939 map.
All right, thank you.
So this is the first map and a resolution that you're gonna see. I'm trying to get a little bit bigger here. There's a lot of.
That got bigger.
I want it to get bigger.
Big.
Top one. You wouldn't think so, but this map is 22 megabytes, so it's huge. Maybe just drag it bigger. There you go. That's close enough. But this is the official resolution that's going to go to the state of South Dakota. And that's that 7-page resolution you have.
You don't need signs, I don't like them.
I should have opened. Oops. Now it's thinking. I know if you, is it still thinking? Once that resolution is sent to peer and adopted, this will be our county primary system. The dark blue and the pink roads are the county highway system is adopted by the commissioners. The dark blue ones are the FAS system, that's Federal Aid Highway System. That system is going to be modified sometime in November. I've been told by the state of South Dakota because of the 2010 census. The urban area around Box Elder and the city of Rapid City has grown. And when that urban area grows, it changes the FAS designation on some of those roads. So you'll be seeing something come from the state of South Dakota that will revise the FAS system. The commissioners cannot change that on their own. That has to come through the urban planning and metropolitan area and is designated by the state. Minimize that one. There you go. So when we get all done, this is going to be the county highway system as of today's date if you approve the resolutions. You have the county primary system, FAS. You have the county highway system in blue. Then you have the county secondary system, which is all the green roads, and the county aid highway system. We have a few of those in organized townships, and those basically are rural roads that they do not serve the purpose to be on the primary system, but in order to spend our money and our funds on them, we have to designate them as county aid roads. Is it still thinking? Now go to this one. Oh, no, yes, the Word document. I believe this is a resolution you have in front of you, and this is the one to correct the deficiencies in the data. Uh-oh. And this is a resolution you have in front of you. It corrects all the deficiencies in the data utilized by the Department of Transportation. Go up to the top, please, for me. The second whereas defines that due to annexations by the City of Rapid City and the City of Box Elder, and also agreements that the counties entered into between the City of Rapid City and the City of Box Elder. And then the rural local roads and the urban local roads do not meet the criteria placed on the county system. Therefore, be it resolved that the following list of roads will be deleted. And then scroll way down to just about the last page. And be it further resolved by the Pennington County Board of Commissioners, the following roads be added to the Pennington County primary highway system, and those were those pieces in green that I showed you. Now if I can go to the next Word document. This is the one you do not have in your packet because I'm off about 3-point-some miles, and this in regards to the county secondary roads. This adds the first whereas is county secondary roads need maintenance, and then the board has the authority according to South Dakota Law 3112-26, and the county secondary highway system has been fragmented and outdated because of numerous recorded resolutions adding and deleting segments of the county secondary road system. Therefore, be it resolved that all previous resolutions adding or deleting roads to the county secondary highway system for maintenance are hereby rescinded. And be it further resolved that the following list of roads are hereby classified and placed on the Pennington County highway system for roads for maintenance purposes. And we have about 6 pages of those. And basically, it's all redefining them, and this resolution has, like I say, I'm off about 3 miles. And then close that one and go to the last one. And I mentioned county aid roads earlier. These are roads within an organized township. They should be township roads, but the county's been maintaining them for years. In order to clarify what funding we can spend on these roads, on these township roads, we're gonna, be it resolved that the following list of township roads are hereby classified and placed on the Pennington County highway system as county aid roads for maintenance purposes. And I have a short list of these roads. And all of these, when I determine where the 3 miles are, I don't know if it's in the county aid or the township, I will have the actual resolution for signature later today as soon as I get the mileage changed. Overall, what this does, the county highway system was 845 miles before I made all these changes, and when we're all said and done, the county highway system is 850 miles, and that's because Sunset Ranch Road District was in here asking to add on, was it 4 miles or 5 miles of road to the system. I had an email late yesterday afternoon that says they're going to sign the agreement. I had to change the dates. We had October 1st and we're gonna change November 1st, but they're gonna sign that agreement agreeing to pay that $8,000 some dollars per year for maintenance of that road, so they're included on this. So overall, this will be the official system if you pass all the resolutions today, and the state of South Dakota approves them, which will be 60 days after they receive it. So probably final adoption by the state of South Dakota won't be until January, I would assume.
Mr. Chair.
So that's my presentation, so I'll answer any questions you have.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Heine, I guess I'm a little bit confused because there's a whole bunch of roads here that are in the city of Rapid City and Box Elder that we're taking off the system.
Correct.
So how are we not lowering the number of miles? Because we're taking off more than the 4 miles that you're putting on with that one road district.
The state of South Dakota showed us having close to 900 miles of road, and in actuality, all we've been maintaining is 845.
I see.
So their records are wrong.
Because we were not maintaining.
No, we weren't maintaining to begin with. They were not on our system, that the database I have, but the state showed them as roads on the state system. So I mean, every year when I got their report that here's the total miles that Pennington County highway system consists of, we're always off 50 to 60 miles. Why?
And that's these city miles.
And that's these city miles, yes.
Thank you, Heine.
Any other questions? We have some folks from out in the county, and would you step up to the microphone and identify yourself, please, and ask your question? Yes, you bet.
My name's Carla Jobson, the clerk from Scenic Township. First thing is, once again, disappointed that our township wasn't contacted. That last page that he had up there, those roads are within Scenic Township and roads that Scenic Township is under contract with the county to maintain and to plow snow. We weren't told, and last week we got our new road contract with the county that we get every year, and it still had everything as calling it primary, and so we weren't notified about this either. So I guess our major concern is, you know, our township collects the monies for the maintaining. Does that change at all? Okay. When you said that you've been maintaining, the county's been maintaining these roads, are you saying that us as together as the county are maintaining them, or because you pay us to do it, or
Vice versa.
Yes, we have a contract with Scenic Township to blade some of our gravel roads down in the scenic area. This in no way changes that contract. You're still going to get paid to maintain them. I need that agreement signed, and I'm not sure until this goes to pier and everything is settled. It's probably going to be around 1st of January before I can actually change the designation of the roads.
What we're talking about is the one under the law 311312, and the county commissioners make that decision. That doesn't go to pier for the county aid.
Right.
And the county aid roads, as far as I can tell, are the ones within our township. And then you're changing, so they're called primary roads now in our township, or township roads, or whatever they're called, they're being changed to county aid.
This Bear Creek, and I can't remember the
Sage
name.
Creek, 195th, 186th.
Sage Creek stays the same. Bear Creek changes to a county aid road, and it's just a designation. Nothing changes as far as we can spend. When it's a county aid road, we can spend license plate funds on it and other funds the county gets. I cannot spend the secondary unorganized road levy on that road. So I
Okay.
need to change the classification.
Okay.
The maintenance and everything else stays the same.
I just didn't what is the actual definition of a county aid road?
A county aid road is a road within an organized township that the commissioners feel, they should maintain.
Okay. And then the ones over, Hart Table, Indian Creek, Spring Draw, those are not in our township, but are under contract, our blade guy goes and
Yes.
does the stuff.
Yep,
And those are gonna be called secondary?
county secondary roads,
Okay,
because they're in an unorganized territory.
okay.
They're not in a township.
So, what the commissioners are making the decision on today, that part of the resolution that does not go to Pier, is what we're talking about with scenic
Right.
and the other. So that doesn't change any of the monies coming in to scenic for maintenance or snowplow?
No,
Okay, so,
our contract with you stays in place. You're gonna maintain the same amount of miles you are now.
okay.
Nothing changes, just changing the
Just,
classification.
okay, well, that's why I didn't quite understand what all that meant.
Look at this.
I think I understand now.
I just hope you
Thank
don't
you.
raise the prices that much.
When you get it understood, would you come back and explain it to me?
Well, I guess I hear what he's saying is, in all actuality, as far as working with the road system, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Just to get the record straight. You bet.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to ascertain
Yeah.
was that, you know, that-
And,
Yeah, it's not gonna affect our agreement at all.
okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for being here. Anyone else? You okay?
Mr. Peterson, I visited with you on the phone, and I guess I was concerned about the deletion part of it. And do I understand Heine is saying that we have 60 days for comments on these resolutions
At the state level.
to the state level?
Yeah.
But that could affect what they do here, right?
Well,
If the state says something different,
Yes.
that's what
Right.
I was wondering about.
Yes.
Okay, so we do have some, I don't know, not recourse necessarily, but it's a way of expressing if, I just seen this on, what did I call you, Friday? Thursday, Friday, whatever day it was. And haven't had a lot of time to discuss it with anybody other than we visited a little bit, and there was a couple more gonna come up today, but they wound up being sick, so, and I'm actually not living in the township. The road I was kind of concerned about was the Dinky Road,
Oh, okay.
and that
Yes.
goes right past my place. And it's been, as far as I know, it's been on the county system forever.
And it still is.
Yeah,
It's still a county road. We're just changing it from a CHS to a CAR, a county aid road instead of a county highway system road.
And I assumed that, but I thought, well, I'll ask the question whether we got a
Yep,
little time to
no problem.
to do some thinking on this yet. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commission?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2012-10-16.
There a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
I would also ask for a motion to approve resolution 2012-10-16-1, which I have on the screen, but you don't have it in front of you, or would you rather wait and go through all them roads when I have the 3 miles clarified?
I guess, it's my opinion, Jay, you tell me if it's wrong, that As long as we have a copy of it on the screen, and we don't necessarily have to have a hard copy in hand to approve it.
No.
Well, my motion would be to approve 2012-10-16-2.
One, is there a 1 and 2?
Yep, there's a 2 and a 3.
Oh, 2 and a 3, okay. So it's, this
Second.
motion is number 2. Is there a second?
I'm not sure that that's not
Is there a
right.
second?
but-
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Everyone clear? Comfortable? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Third motion.
And a motion to approve resolution 2012-10-16-3, which adds county aid highways. These are the township roads I showed you in green that are maintained by the county, and they'll be classified as county aid roads, CAR for short.
I guess I'll make a motion to approve it.
If I may, Holly just clarified for me, I guess I misunderstood what you were saying, Commissioner Busford. I thought you meant you just didn't have it in front of you up there. It was on the screen. It's not even on the agenda as an listed agenda item. I misunderstood what you were saying. I thought you just meant you didn't have it in front of you, but it was on the agenda.
Well, it's on the agenda to revise the county highway system. I guess I didn't know I had to list every resolution.
Well, we don't have it,
Well, that's true, it's not on there.
I don't want to deal with the repercussions of not having it on there, so I think it probably ought to be
doesn't
on
have
there.
1, 2, or 3, so, but you've got the entire resolution.
So the deletion resolution too, all 3 should be on the next meeting? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Jay, he has in the resolution here of the
That was printed in the newspaper.
public hearing to revise the Pennington County Highway System Resolution 2012-16 or 10-16. And so that encompasses 1, 2, and 3. And that's what he gave us for information, and that's what he's showing on the screen.
And on the agenda, we have listed as, can you hand me that, honey?
On the agenda, it says 2012-10-16. So to me, that would encompass it in its entirety.
Well, I'm getting a little information as we go along here. So I guess I'd have to ask Heine for clarification. Does 2012-10-16 cover all of the resolutions that you're asking to be passed today?
No.
Yes, 1, 2, and 3 does. Well, then they're all part and parcel.
It just, if that's if -2 and -3 are all part of, I don't know, they're all separate resolutions.
I don't think so.
This is all the deletions.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that my motion to approve the first one, 2012-10-16, was appropriate, and we voted on that. I think I made a motion for 2012-10-16-2, and I'll withdraw that motion because I don't think that's appropriate to do at this time.
Did you withdraw the second?
Haven't we already had a vote on that? So we have to reconsider.
So we need a motion to reconsider.
You think that's the way it needs to be, Jay?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to
My motion
reconsider.
to reconsider.
Okay. Second then.
Motion and a second to reconsider the action taken on 2012-10-16-2. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Mr. Chair, I withdraw my second to the last motion on item 3.
Well, now we're reconsidering. I'll make a motion to, on 2012-10-6-2 to continue that for 2 weeks, I guess.
Yeah, that'll work. And
Or
3.
3 weeks, till the next meeting.
Yes. That's fine with me. Then I'll have everything straightened out.
Is there a second to that motion?
Yes.
Motion and a second to continue 2012-1016-2 for 2 weeks.
And 3.
Did we vote on 3?
And 3, 2 and 3.
Okay, just so we're clear with the Secretary. Everyone understand we're deferring 2 and 3 with this motion. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
That missed.
Okay, the next item is Green Valley Estates drainage.
Oh, did you get a copy? Did Howard give you one? Okay. At the last commission meeting, you requested me to try and set up a meeting with all the residents in Green Valley Estates to discuss the drainage issues on the culverts. We do have a meeting set up for November, first Wednesday of November with the Green Valley Estates Sanitation District Board. And all the residents are going to be invited. In the meantime, the Green Valley Estates Water and Sanitation Board met, and I received this email from Ron Bings. He's from Advanced Engineering. He is doing the construction maintenance for their current water main installation project, and the board met late last week, and they have agreed to pay for all the installation cost for installing all the culverts in the driveway that needs them if the county would furnish them. And the reasoning when I had a meeting with them and discussed the issue is that all those residents out there are being assessed for the water line, and part of the water line reconstruction was a request by Pennington County Highway Department that they reestablish the flow lines and the drainage ways within that district, and they have. And so now the ditches are cleaned out, they're shaped, they're at the proper elevation. The only thing we're missing right now is the culverts in the driveways that don't have culverts. And I guess that was their offer. Being the people are being assessed already and they're sharing in the cost without putting an extra burden on those residents. If the county would agree to furnish the culverts, they will do all the installation. I gave you an estimate, I believe, last meeting of about 12 to 13,000 for culverts. They're working on Southside Drive. There's a few more driveways that don't have culverts in. I'm looking at that estimate to be around between 15 and 16,000. I do have funding available in the county highway budget. We do have a drainage budget that we utilize every year to maintain County Heights ditch and No Name ditch and the Hawthorne ditch, to maintain those facilities. And there is money available in that line item budget to pay for the culverts if the commissioner desire to work with Green Valley Estates to correct the drainage issue out there. So I guess what I'm looking at today is would the commissioners be willing to work with Green Valley Estates and have the highway department furnish the culverts for the driveways in that subdivision?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Your recommendation, Heine, is to approve this?
I would. I think if we try to force people to pay for it over and above what they're paying now for the water line, it'd be years before we get it straightened out. And if we don't put them in and we have a heavy rain and the water sets in that ditch for 3, 4, 5 days, it soaks into the subgrade of the road. Pretty soon we'll be in repairing the road and the asphalt surface anyway, so I think it's a proactive thing to do is correct the drainage and do it right as long as it's all disturbed.
Okay. I would make a motion to authorize the Highway Department to enter into the cooperative agreement with the Green Valley Water or Sanitation District.
Or just furnish culverts is all I need. Furnish the culverts or the.
All right. Out of your existing funds.
What?
Out of your existing funds.
Yes, the highway budget. Or drainage budget, I guess.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'd like to ask just one question, and I would second it. Commissioner Holloway, would you agree that that comes out of the drainage fund that has been paying and that money's been building up there?
That's a fund that you have.
Yes, I have a separate fund, drainage fund.
Sure, wherever Heine
within my budget.
Wherever Heine thinks is the most appropriate place to take it, out of his funds.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Jay, do you have any thoughts?
I guess I would, Heine's put a lot of effort into this, and we've looked at it together, and I think what we were really looking for is some kind of cooperative agreement with the landowners out there. It's long overdue. It's goes back to the 1939 and thereafter. So it's time to get it corrected. This is a great way to compromise and get it done. So I'm supportive of it. But
any further discussion? Any comments from the audience? We have a motion and a second. No further comments. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Heine.
Yeah, so the only other thing, there will no longer be a need to have that public meeting with those residents, so I guess I will cancel that unless the board thinks we should still visit with them.
You're the man on the ground.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 21. A, we'll start with.
Good morning. Mike Cool with Buildings and Grounds. I'm here this morning to give you an update on the construction projects. I'm happy to report that the expansion project on Block 99 is proceeding extremely well at this point in time. It's actually ahead of schedule and within budget. And the work being done currently is of very good quality on the project. The second page of the submittal I gave you kind of gives a project rundown, a brief rundown on the status of things. I'll just back up a little bit onto the parking structure. That project is complete. We are in the process of finalizing some documentation, getting our O&Ms manuals for the structure processed. We currently have one change order outstanding on that. That will probably lower the overall project costs to at least $160,000 overall, so that the county has saved over the original contract costs. The original contract value for that was, the construction contract value was $4.2 million. The overall budget was $4.9 million. And we'll keep you informed when we have that all finally closed out and resolved. As I indicated, our current construction projects over on Block 99, the project that's coming up out of the ground that everybody can see now is the evidence building. It is, the exterior of the building is nearing completion. You can start, you can see that the masonry work is done and the precast panels have been hung, and they're getting close to be installing the windows in the building. I would estimate that, I believe I probably misnoted on your sheets the status of that project in terms of completion. It's probably about 70 to 75% complete. And as I indicated, it is, right now is running about 2 weeks ahead of schedule. So we're in very good shape there. That project's construction value over on Block 99 is $22.5 million. Currently, we have spent about $2.5 million on the project overall. And the overall budget for Block 99 at this time is $29 million. Those numbers include everything from design, the overall budget numbers include everything from design fees to testing services, insurance, etc. The last sheet of the submittal that I gave you is a contract change log for the project. If you recall, our project is divided into 3 packages: the site package, the evidence building package, and the administration building package. This log combines all costs, so any changes so far to date on the project. And if you look down at the bottom, you can see that right now we are at about have added about $5,587 to the project overall. I guess, is there any questions, any specific parts of maybe some of the information that I've submitted that I could maybe further describe for you? Or
I think it's amazing that you have had that small a change. That speaks well for everyone.
Yeah.
Any other comments on this item? If not, Mike, would you want to go to item B? And thank you for that report.
I have an additional handout.
Thank you.
Another item I wanted to talk with the building committee about was a design change in the administration building to the IT department. With the new IT director, we have, there's been some reorganization in the way IT is handled on the Pennington County campus, and a change in the thought about how that department will be operated. And with that comes some needs to change the layout of the department. What I've provided you is, if you go clear to the last page of that document, is a blow-up of the way the current plan is. And Russ and I have worked together to kind of come up with a concept for, if you go another page back into the document, for some revisions to his department to meet his needs in terms of the way that he sees the department functioning now. As I indicated, Russ and I worked together here to try and minimize costs as much as we could. So we've taken it upon ourselves to do some of this early conceptual work. But we do need to get our design team involved to make these alterations to the building, and that's what I'm here to talk about. Would be a $23,530 additional service agreement to make these modifications for the design team. The documentation that precedes the plans is just how they have gone through and laid out how the work that they need to do in order to accommodate this new design plan. And Russ is also here if you had some questions in regard to his needs in terms of the layout.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mike, just for clarification, obviously there's been no construction started on this particular building yet.
Correct.
And once we get the redesign done of that area, then that information will be provided to the contractor, who will let us know if there's any additional cost associated in the construction portion of it. But frankly, that should be minimal, if any at all, because we're just moving some walls and not adding any square footage. So.
Right. We do expect some amount. It's a difficult thing to put a number to when we already have a contract in place. But yes, you're right that we are not occupying any additional space. It does require some revisions to mechanical and electrical systems in terms of their layouts and stuff, and that's why that it's rather time consuming on the design team's part.
But again, it's an opportune time to do this because we haven't started putting anything together. So we're
absolutely
not spending money, tearing things down to redo it.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Russ, do you have anything you want to contribute to the discussion?
I guess I would just point out that the main reason for the design change is the change in the number of staff, because as you recall, we pulled the sheriff's office IT people into our group, and then we also have added 1.5 FTEs since the time that the original design was done. So the original design really didn't have any room for expansion of offices or expansion of equipment in the server room. So that was the driving change.
And Russ, you have the money in your budget to cover this, right?
I'll see what I can do.
Russ, I thought maybe we were going to sell some sheriff's cars and different things. So.
You're going to see when my item comes up, I'm going to save you a little bit of money.
That'll be odd.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
What I'm seeking, the form of this agreement is just an amendment essentially to their design contract, and I'm just seeking authorization to authorize them to move forward with these design changes.
That would be my motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to authorize moving forward on the design change. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Emergency management, item 22A.
Good morning. You have the SLA agreement for 2013. We have this every year. This is how we receive funding from the federal government through the state for us to supplement our program and the administrative costs and things like that. And there's only been a couple minor changes with some additional training that's been added, but it outlines all of the things that we have to do to receive this funding and the different requirements we have to do each quarter. Which you saw the fourth quarter SLA in the consent agenda, and then we bring that to you guys for a signature. So this is just authorizing that this is the new agreement for 2013, and we would request the signature of the chair.
Any questions? Comments? Anyone?
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to approve your signature on the annual SLA agreement for emergency management.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the state and local agreement on emergency management. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item B.
Next, this is an agreement for an exercise that we're going to have later on this week with the CST team and the hazmat team for a building that is now owned by the Department of Transportation. And so we just formally need to sign this document to let us use the facility. And we're keeping the name out so that it doesn't get to the CST team or the hazmat team of where this exercise is going to take place. That allows them to plan for what they might want to do. So keeping the element of surprise, but you can see it. It's one of their buildings, and the sheriff's office also uses it for training as well currently. So we would just ask for the chair's signature on that.
And this agreement calls for the signature of the chair.
Yes.
And so I assume that would be part of the motion.
So move with that item attached.
Have a motion, a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the facility use agreement. Authorize the chair's signature. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. I forgot to ask for discussion, so it was undiscussed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have item 23A from the fire administrator.
Good morning, Denny Gorton, Pennington County Fire Administrator. This time of year, each year we recognize, the Pennington County firefighters recognize a number of their members for their service, their years of service. We also pick a firefighter of the year and a fire officer of the year from the nominations from the fire departments. But we also just have a resolution that we'd ask the county commissioners to sign, just I guess recognizing 3 firefighters with lots of years of service, but also all the firefighters in Pennington County that respond to the calls and provide services to our citizens. So,
Any discussion? I think we have some certificates back here that are part of what you're bringing forward. Who's in charge of that? Nancy, are you?
So you're asking the board to approve this resolution?
Correct.
You want to read the resolution?
that'd just be my pleasure. So there's a resolution, whereas Pennington County has shown a consistent dedication to providing a safe place to live and prosper in the beautiful Black Hills, and whereas the Fire Service of Pennington County has a long and proud tradition of providing protection against the ravages of fire, and whereas the citizens of Pennington County rely on the 19 volunteer fire departments, 2 career fire departments, and the 600 professional firefighters to respond to their requests for assistance. And whereas the fire departments rely on the dedication and professionalism of their members to respond to over 15,000 requests for assistance annually of all types in all kinds of weather. And whereas it is most fitting and proper to honor those following professional public servants for their many years of dedicated service: Joe Gogain with North Haines Volunteer Fire Department, 35 years, Keith Jackson of Rockerville with 30 years, and Cliff Dahl of Rapid Valley Volunteer Fire Department, 25 years. Then be it therefore resolved by the Pennington County Board of Commissioners on behalf of the citizens and communities that the 20th day of October 2012 AD be declared and affirmed as Firefighter Appreciation Day in Pennington County. And be it further resolved that we dedicate ourselves to follow those firefighters' examples in making this county fire safe, dated the 16th day of October 2012 in session at the Pennington County Courthouse at Rapid City, South Dakota, signed by the chairperson and attested to.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution as presented by the fire coordinator of Pennington County and to fix the chair's signature.
There's a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just something that I think is fair. It sort of looks like this is just for the western end of the county in that first statement, and I think it would be much nicer if we rephrase just that little part and it included the whole county.
Certainly, we can do that.
Okay, we have a motion. Does the motion need to make reference to the suggested change?
No, I just.
Overall.
I'm not. I mean, I agree with the resolution. I just thought maybe we needed to include
Certainly.
the eastern part of the county.
And Glenn, what would that be? The beautiful Cheyenne Breaks? Something like that?
Yeah.
Are we
The
not,
beautiful prairies, Pennington County. Black Hills and Prairies.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Then in that first item, it says, I think we're talking about our firefighters and amongst their own peers, but also the mutual aid situation that we have, and that encompasses the entire Black Hills. Is that where we were headed there, or is that?
No, the resolution is, of course, is aimed at Pennington County Fire Departments, so, but yes, we certainly do have a lot of mutual aid from a lot of the fire departments in the Black Hills and all across the state, so.
Maybe that first item should be then the beautiful Black Hills and Pennington County as a whole.
We can do that.
I just think we need the whole
Certainly.
county.
Be happy to.
Madam Secretary, would you give us some guidance? We've not passed a motion.
I'll get a revised resolution from Denny with proper wording for the first paragraph.
Everyone comfortable with the motion and the second and the discussion? I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. Item 24, Technology Data Services Contract.
Good morning, Russ Tinsvold with the IT department. Just want to let you know that as promised, this is an opportunity for the county to save a little bit of money. That's not going to come from IT very often. So I'm just asking for permission to go ahead with this agreement for 12 months with Knology. We negotiated a very good contract with them where we're getting more services for less money.
Very good.
Mr. Chair, I do have one question with this, and it says in here that you're reworking the current data plan and charges, and then the proposed data plan and charges, and it has an item in there for extension. And how do we get reimbursed in the county for that money from the extension?
I guess I don't have the answer to that. I know that
Anyone know?
I mean, what they're paying for is a connection back to our system. Only one person in the extension office, I believe there's just one person who's actually a county employee, so her computer connects back to our system for inputting vouchers, et cetera. That's the purpose, but how the reimbursement happens, I don't know.
My assumption would be that and this is a guess, that the money comes out of the extension budget and is transferred to this fund. That makes sense?
Kind of like everybody.
I don't know. Or are we subsidizing the extension budget for another $250 a month? I'm wondering, I guess I'd like to know that.
Just so we could pay a few bills for them, $250 a month. But
Well, whatever it is that we're doing, their cost will actually go down, regardless of where the funds are coming from.
And you did a very good job negotiating that.
Thank you.
Okay, do you need any action from us to move forward on this?
I guess I would look to Mr. Alderman, but I believe I need permission to sign the agreement.
So move.
Have a motion, second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the data services contract with Knology. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if at all permissible, it's not on the agenda, but I guess I'd like to have an answer to that extension question, just what goes on with that money.
Sure. Okay, next item is item 25, Crystal Cave signage.
Hello, my name is Al Moss. I'm the general manager for Epic Outdoor Advertising, and the reason for my being here today is I guess I'm kind of looking for an answer or a solution or some ideas on a purchase that we made with the Crystal Cave signs. We purchased the Crystal Cave signs and have the opportunity to I guess upgrade them to make them useful again. My reason, I guess, for being here is to ask if, I guess I've looked at these signs and we've discussed different options on what we could do with them as far as leasing them out to some of the smaller areas up on, for most of them are, you see, are on Highway 44. There's about 50, I think 50 to around 50 of them on the list. And I guess I would like to ask the permission of the commissioners to come up with a solution, maybe to allow us to possibly trade out some of these locations for something that could be in a viable location that be in a better location, and take into account that there's many of these signs that we would actually go out and tear down ourselves, and in kind of a trade situation, maybe to clean up a lot of these older signs.
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment as we start this discussion? You know, Al, you called me and I directed you to planning and zoning. And what here's what I hear, and this is what I was trying to explain to you. It's really not our job to come up with a plan. It's your job to come up with a plan, go through the variance process with planning and zoning, have them help you direct that through. And I really am not sure what I would do with any of this information at this point, because I have no idea what you want to do, and that really needs to be brought through the normal process that we would follow in the county using planning and zoning. We are unable, and that's what I was trying to explain to you. We really are unable to do anything with it.
Well, that's I did go down and talk to them, and then they directed me to be on the agenda, just to let you know, I guess. And then I've talked with Dan, and I guess that's what we just talked about in the hall a little bit, is maybe coming up with something, but a little bit more of a plan for this. But I guess we kind of need to correlate that a little bit more, coordinate that a little more.
I personally am not willing to. I want a plan presented to me that you have worked with planning and zoning, going through the ordinances, figuring out what it is you want to do, what you financially can do. And I'm sure all of that is a problem, but I am not going to change an ordinance or waive an ordinance. I'm not doing that.
Sure.
Anything like that.
Sure.
Is that what you were asking us to do today?
No, I guess I was just under assumption when I went to planning zone. I guess Dan wasn't there, and then we talked about it afterwards, and it was more or less just kind of getting it on the agenda, and that's, I guess I was just following what they told me to do.
Dan, do you have anything to add that might help us get ourselves positioned?
Well, I do think he needs to talk to us first and to go through our ordinances, because I don't even know which signs are legal. I mean, most of them are probably legal, non-conforming, if not all of them. And in order to bring them into compliance, currently you could use all these signs as they are, put a new face on them. It doesn't require anything from our office for that. But he cannot enlarge them. He cannot change the location of them. He can only repair them at up to 50% of the value of the assessed property of the sign. And in that case, in the future, they may all come down, and then they can't rebuild them. So, it would have to come through our office before it goes to you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
The company that owned these signs previous have been out of business for 4 or 5 years, and most likely these signs are all under the heading of abandoned signs. So I'm not sure just where that legally leaves us.
That is more than likely the case. However, our ordinance has got a weird or a different type of interpretation of what is considered an abandoned sign.
With the state attorney and Epic
And change it.
and see where we're at.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Jay, do you have anything? Okay, I think somewhere along the line we need to understand each other enough so that you folks have a sense of what direction you should go without having to backtrack half a dozen times. Have you reached that point, or Dan, do you have guidance for him in terms of what they need to bring back to you at some point, or?
Well, we need to know the exact location of all these signs and what he wants to do with these signs. Does he want to tear them down? Does he want to rebuild in certain areas or other locations? That would all have to go through our office. And I don't know the exact location of all these signs. The list he has aren't even all in Pennington County. So I have to take a look at that and review it. And then I can get with Mr. Moss to go through all of this.
Any other comment you want to comment?
Again, Terry with Lamar Advertising. I guess we're in the same situation as Mr. Moth with Epic. We have a number of signs in Pennington County that, frankly, we're embarrassed of. We'd like to clean them up, but the ordinance is so restrictive that we really can't. We would spend the money and clean them up and do our part if the ordinance was relaxed a little bit, if we got a little slack in cleaning them up. And we're completely on board with Epic on this. One of the few times we probably are. I'm thinking down there on Highway 79, we have some really ugly signs that we're embarrassed of, and we paid money for them. So we can't really cut them down. They're the mini businesses, so we can't really cut them down. But yet we can't fix them up too. So you're darned if we do, and you're darned if we don't. Now it's like Dan said, I can drop a vinyl around them and put some baling wire and spit on them and make them last another 5-10 years. But is that what we really want? I guess I would encourage the commission to let's look at the sign code. Let's do what Rapid City did. They passed a special exception where if you brought the sign into compliance to the whole code, they would waive spacing or waive something else. And from that, Lamar personally, we spent $1 million in the city of Rapid City cleaning up our billboards. $1 million. And it makes it, a better looking sign. So I was going to approach you with the next couple months anyway, so this is a perfect time for me just to put my 2 cents worth in, and we're willing to do that. On the top of it, I won't get one bit of money more for the sign the way it is than if I clean it up. So, we're willing to spend the money because our name's on that. The state requires us to put our name on them. And some of these signs, we're frankly embarrassed to have our name on them because we can't really do anything. So I'd be willing to work with the commissioner, Dan, or with Epic to get a plan on this. And let's clean some of these really ugly signs up in Pennington County. And we're on board with it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We do have a procedure that allows people like you to bring forward suggested ordinance changes and the process for accomplishing that. And you can either do it and say, I'm an expert and we're going to do it because we understand the business, or you can educate a bunch of dummies like us. So it's up to you which way you want to go. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think they could also just work with Dan, and hopefully the three of them, or whoever many people you want to work with, Dan could then, if he comes up with a plan that they've helped him put together, could bring it to us as well. Isn't that correct, Dan?
Yes, we certainly
seemed like
could.
that would be the best scenario, because even if they bring it directly to us, I think we'd probably be referring it back to planning and zoning. So,
one of the things they're talking about is our code is more or less in regards to location of the sign. Some of the city codes is in regards to even how the sign is constructed. We have no building codes in Pennington County. The sign, of course, if it reaches a certain point of degradation, it has to come down. If it's more than 50% of the value of the sign itself, it has to come down. They cannot repair it. And maybe that's what's happening with a lot of these signs in the county.
However, Mr. Chair, it is rather ironic because Dan's and another committee have been working on an ordinance for street and road signage, and one of the things that was discussed at one of those meetings is that we do need to look at this other part of the signage. And so, I would say I think we probably should look at what we have and listen to what the sign companies say. So I don't know if we just had our last meeting with the.
Yeah, that proposed ordinance, I know what you're talking about, but the one that is being discussed with the committee is in regards to like traffic control signs, the stop signs, speed signs, street, labeling signs for directional.
I know but I'm saying that in those meetings, it did come up that we need to look at the other side of signage.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion and comments on this issue? Are you comfortable with what we're doing, or?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of my main objective here, is to kind of get this opened up and discussed, and I'm glad Terry interjected a little bit, because that's kind of the thing that we feel handcuffed with a little bit, is the fact that, a lot of times they don't come to us. And I'm not saying you guys, I mean city, anybody, just, come to us and compromise with us on what we have, because we want to make our signs look better, but we don't want to be handcuffed in the fact that we can't do anything with them besides throw a vinyl over them, try to make them look as best we can, and that's about all we can ask for, is just to start the discussion, start the process, and hopefully we can get something moving, clean up the whole area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 26, a lien release request.
You know the question.
I do. Good morning, Jay Alderman with the State's Attorney's Office. I have had a chance to review the lien release request. The individual that is requesting this basically states that they were a juvenile at the time the costs were incurred, and therefore no lien should be recorded with the Register of Deeds against their name to any future property that they might acquire it could attach to. I would agree with that under these circumstances. If that individual was in the juvenile court system at the time, then the only lien that could be placed against the charges incurred would be against the parents. And in delinquency cases or CHINS cases, the limit is $1,500 against a parent. In abuse and neglect proceedings, there's no limit. But none of those proceedings, as I understand it here, were involved in this case. This individual was actually charged under a separate area of the code that allows juveniles by age, 10 through 17, to be charged directly in adult court. And when you're in adult court, they have an opportunity to transfer that back to juvenile court, which didn't happen here. This individual stayed in adult court, was ultimately convicted of a felony, and is in the penitentiary, and still is. That's a different area of the code that addresses that scenario, and it's also a different area of the code that addresses liens. And the liens in that case are against any person in a criminal action, and certainly a juvenile by age still falls in the definition of person. This was a criminal action, not a delinquency action. And I just would point out, too, that appropriately so, this individual actually filled out the request for court-appointed counsel, which would be the case in adult court. So for all those reasons, I would recommend that this lien not be released because it is appropriate. Certainly you have the authority to do with the lien as you wish regardless, but just to set the record straight on the facts, yes, the individual was a juvenile, but this is in an adult court scenario which has a different set of rules, and I think they were followed appropriately.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to deny the canceling of the lien.
I will second that.
Motion and a second to deny the lien release request. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Items from the chair. I have nothing, Holly. So we'll move on to item 28, Spring Creek Watershed Management Project data. Stephanie Strong.
Hello, I'm Curtis Strong. I put together this little bit of paper that you got. And what I did was I came to the last meeting and I kind of spoke out about the study that was done on Spring Creek. So I thought I'd just put a few things together to point out a few more things. If you look at the first 6 pages of that, are the testing they're going by on this test, and it's in 2002, 2003. So like I said, it's a bit outdated, and they're not testing for any specific type of fecal matter. It's just CFUs. So I have a little problem with some of their conclusions on this data. And if you look at it a little bit closer and look at the time of days that they're testing for this, every now and then they're testing at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I don't know who's doing that, but it just doesn't, it really strikes me a little odd. And if you bring it down to where they break out the different types of animals that they said they found, and you know that they use the gel to separate the proteins so they can break the strands down of the DNA so they can do the ribotyping in order to find out where it really came from. And there's nothing in there that they ever did this in Spring Creek, and if they have, I can't find it. But this one that is in the Spring Creek report is identical to the one on the Missouri River, where they did do that. So I know Spring Creek sooner or later will get to the Missouri River, but it's a poor conclusion to really come up with that I can't put A and B together to get what they're doing. And as far as, you know, they state in here, if you look at that second paragraph down, it says the Pennington County Conservation District may have information regarding the abundance of pig E. coli. Well, they may have it. Well, if they may have it, how come it's not in here? And if they do have it, where can we find it? So there's a few things in this report that are really not adding up. And then if you go to another thing that stuck out to me since I've been testing water for a long time is they came up with the conductivity and the total dissolved solids is identical. That's physically impossible. It can't happen because it'll be from 54% to 96%, but it can never be 1 and it never can be 0. So they either weren't taking the information or they weren't looking for it because they just randomly put these numbers down that are impossible. And if you look at the numbers, even the 2,500 on the TDSs, that's 6-7 times of Rapid City water average. It depends if we're getting it out of the creek or a well. It runs from 300 to 600. And then I don't think that Deerfield Lake and Spring Creek are that far apart where we can have that kind of concentration increase. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And the same thing with the conductivity. They travel with each other, but they're never the same. So those are the things that I really, you know, and there's more in there, but I didn't want to waste a whole lot of time. But this is in that report. And so if we're using this report to spend almost $800,000, It seems a little bit, you know, it's like a fraud perpetrated on the Pennington County taxpayer. So I'd really like to have another look at this, and if there's new testing that's current, because we now have a water treatment plant up there, you know, if we got something passed when, you know, that went into effect and we've got some testing and some ribotyping, but I can't find it and nobody will share it with me. So if there's something else out there why we're doing this, that'd be great, but that's a lot of money to do on a report that is this shoddy. And then in the back here, all I did was put in kind of a layman's way of looking at bacteria and water and how it works. This is a really good book. So I just took the chapter out on bacteria and water quality, put it in there just to give you some information in case you're interested.
In terms of, I'm kind of a newcomer to this in one way, in terms of this project in itself, and I've had a little trouble trying to figure out why 9 and 10-year-old data has a bearing on now.
Me too.
In terms of the project.
I agree with you.
The project is moved on to other phases, changes have occurred, and we're Pennington County, as I understand it, is the local vehicle carrying out something that the EPA and the DENR have already said this stream, this body of water is impaired, and if we were not linked into it as a county, then they still have the authority to do it anyway, don't they?
Not to my knowledge. When you're talking private property, the EPA can't do anything without a court order. You know, it's not possible. If you're talking public land, maybe if you allow it, because you guys control the county lands. So, but they can't walk onto your property and tell you got to put in a new septic system.
Okay, but essentially, the role that Pennington County plays in the whole thing, would you say we should get out of it? Not be a participant? Or what would
Based
your
on this data,
recommendation be?
yes. Based on the data, if there's some other data out there that says Spring Creek is dirty and it's a health hazard, it should be addressed, but this doesn't do it.
Well, somebody made a decision 10 years ago, and we're here now, so what would you recommend we do?
I would drop the whole project, and if you want to do a study on Spring Creek, then get a contractor out there. There's plenty of them here in town that'll go do the testing and have them report back that, you know, what they find. And if they find that we're breaking the TDLs, then great. But this report doesn't show it, because actually, you know, this report was looking for phosphonates, and the E. coli was just a byproduct of their testing, and somebody took that and put it in this report. Because phosphonates were big with the soaps and all that years ago. And that's all under control because you can't buy it anymore where it's going to get out. So that's really what, I don't know how this got put together and approved. It's just a little bit beyond me.
Hey, do you have anything further?
Nope, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Strong, and I had a few comments. Hello. There was a few things that I wanted to point out as well. When we were here at the last meeting, Brittany had stated that there were some updated testing. Did you guys get any documentation of any updated testing?
We didn't get it.
No.
No. Okay. And I mean, because if they want to have that forthcoming, and who did it, when they did it, how they did it, what points they did it at, and that, you know, that, and I would sure like to be able to have a tour of how they got those samples, so that if we're looking at a certain area that they're looking at and something's bad, that let's troubleshoot that and say, why are the samples coming in this way on this particular area? But to just put a blanket over there based on the data that's old, and and to apply it to this project, it doesn't make any sense. And then the other thing is that just, you know, this best management practices comes right from United Nations Agenda 21. And the Republican Party platform has rejected Agenda 21. Stock Growers Association has rejected United Nations Agenda 21. And I spoke with the Stock Growers Association this morning, and they were going to send me some information over. You've got a very good person over there, Craig Shaver, and he has been with counties, different counties, to put a county land use plan together that protects the property rights on a local level. And because anything that you put together on a local level on this county land use plan, it trumps anything that you get from the federal government because it protects you on a local level. So I've got his information, and they're just more than happy to educate us on that so that we are protecting property rights and not giving up our rights as we're going through this process. You know, United Nations, it starts out voluntary, and then pretty soon it's mandatory. It's the same as Hitler there, and we're going to be in the same boat. So we've got to just hang on to our local. We can do a lot better job locally at a local level. You guys are familiar with our area. You know, I've been in South Dakota. I was raised here and have businesses here, and we know this area, and we want to protect our rights here and not go with some standard plan that the EPA is infringing on our rights when they can't infringe on individual rights there.
So what would you recommend we do?
I recommend that you stop and vacate the project, the Spring Creek, and then to disband the Spring Creek Advisory Committee, because there's not a project here.
There what?
There is not a project that needs its attention here to spend that money, to disband it.
Okay, so that's your recommendation?
Yes.
Okay. Anything further?
I guess what's your guys' take on getting some local testing done? If you are concerned about Spring Creek with mid-continent testing, Energy Lab, what are your thoughts on that, and get it to a local level rather than having a government entity come and tell us what we've got wrong with our water? Because a big concern with the EPA coming and telling us as a one-stop-fits-all for everybody, a blanket approval for everybody, is it doesn't take into local things that we've already done here, was something that we had a problem with back in 2002 and 2003, and we've made adjustments. So I guess what's your feeling on getting some local tests from the local people and handle it locally?
And who is locally going to pay for that?
Well, as far as getting the county plan together.
As far as doing the testing.
The testing?
We are, right?
What
this board? The county, taxpayers?
Oh, I'm sure that it could be a bid situation for mid-continent testing. You're not looking at a lot of money.
How much, you suppose?
That's not coming from the county taxpayer, though.
I mean, I'm not opposed to having testing. And when I talked to, who am I trying to say, Dan? Brittany, last time, it was, they have tests, they continue to test, and the tests still sort of fail. And I don't know why that information isn't available. It should be.
Oh, well, as far as the testing on Spring Creek, I have Baseco Strong Water Solutions. We do testing. We work on equipment and boilers for cooling towers, closed loop systems. I'll go get the tests. We'll decide where we're going to take the tests. I'll turn them into mid-continent testing and have them do the testing. So it's so that you don't have the same party doing the finding and reporting. Would you guys be happy with that?
No.
Wait just a minute.
Not a bit.
I think we need to understand this because we've been trying to say this. The county is just like a sort of pass-through. This was brought to us from the state and the EPA. And you need to, if you want to stop this, you need to go to them because we're the pass-through. This money is not our county money. We're just kind of like this. We aren't even managing it. We're just kind of this in-between pass-through. So you really need to go to the state. We've tried to explain that. You need to go to the DENR, and that's where it came to us from them. And if we back out of it, which we talked about almost 2 years ago now, somebody else, they'll just move through to someone else in this community to finish it out. We don't have control over whether it continues or whether it doesn't. And you need to go to the state.
And as far as that goes, and that's why I brought up the county land use plan. So, because really we have to get organized that we're on the same page as far as businesses and landowners and our county public servants, that we are protecting our rights so that we don't lose them.
I agree, but you still have to go back to the state.
I just want to clarify something I heard there. So you guys don't have any say in what's going on with this project?
The plan came, they needed a go-through person. They needed us to
So that's what you guys do, is wait for somebody to, that doesn't make much sense to me.
You have to go back to the state. That's where this came from. The money is funneled from the federal government through DENR to us to pay it.
I understand that, but you say you don't have a say in what goes on in the county.
On this project.
Okay, and how many more projects are like that?
This is the one that I am
Okay,
talking
I just wanted to clarify that point.
But we do vote on things as it relates to this, so,
What we're doing is we're the money management.
well, we're approving the expenditure of those monies, so we must be making some decisions as it relates to this.
But we did not decide to start this.
Well, Dan, let me ask you this. If we disagree with some of these calculations, or if we want to just say, you know, we're not interested in this project anymore, okay, I'll start over. If we decide that we're not interested in this anymore and stop this project, what would DNR do? Would they, I mean, Commissioner Troutman says that they would get somebody else to do it.
Which is
would it
true.
have to be another governmental? Would it have to be another governmental agency?
They would find another agency to take it over and to sponsor it. We are currently the sponsors of this project.
A governmental agency?
RC, Black Hills RC&D could do it. A number of different agencies could do it.
Black Hills RC&D?
They're a research and development company in the area, or government. I believe they're sponsored by the government. But a number of different agencies could take it over and sponsor the whole project. One thing I want to make clear, we don't force these landowners to do anything. It's 100% voluntary. These people, if they don't want to do the projects, they don't have to. It's voluntary.
But I guess it does concern me a little bit if we're spending $800,000, and if it's true that this data is outdated, it's not accurate anymore.
That's why they are currently still doing monitoring. They're out 2-3 times a year, or even more than that, monitoring Spring Creek, taking tests, getting them tested.
Where are those tests, results?
I will have to find out where they're available.
I'm getting sick and tired of Spring Creek watershed and doing this every meeting for an hour. This is crazy. Let's give them the test results and see either we're wasting their money or they're wasting our time. Let's find out one way or the other.
Dan,
plus I'd like to.
Where's Brittany? Where's the people that are running this show?
She's out in the field today.
testing water at Spring Creek.
So can we get, I mean, I guess for me, and I don't know about the rest of the commission, I'd like to see what the new testing results are and have some kind of, somebody correlate that with what they were back 10 years ago or 11 years ago and see if we're making any progress with this. Or see if it still justifies spending money, because if it doesn't justify spending money, then I don't want to approve any more of these contracts. And if the government wants to find somebody else to waste $800,000, I guess they can do that, but
Amen.
not here.
And Mr. Chair, may I suggest that if we put this on the agenda again, that you have DENR, because they did come and explain shortly after the four of you came on the board that we did not have to do this, but we went ahead and voted to go ahead and do this.
Well,
and so I think we need, if we're looking at that decision again, we need to have them here.
I guess I would ask that before we ask DNR to come in here and give us a dog and pony show again, I'd like to see the test results, so that if they come in and tell me that we should continue with this and the test results don't reflect that, then I would still question whether or not we should be spending the money. DNR might want to waste the money, but I guess I don't want to have my vote on it if in fact it's not needed any longer.
Do you have anything further?
Thank you. Tim wanted to speak here.
You next?
Well, if I may, just briefly, a suggestion. If it's DENR or whoever that's actually collecting the data that we'd like to get a hold of, you'd probably want to hear from whoever it is, their interpretation of that data. And if that is DENR,
it's what's respect, isn't it?
So whoever that is, you'd probably want to hear from them.
Yeah, and I'd like to have them provide us the data and give us some summary of how it reflects with what is in the 10-year-old or 11-year-old study.
Go ahead, sir.
My name is Tim Goodwin, and I'm just going to bring a little levity into this. I live in the last house that Spring Creek grows across my property. I'm the closest house to Sheridan Lake. If you drive by on 385, you'll see a big goose in my yard, a Canadian goose they actually can get in to hunt with, so you'll know where I live. And I've been hearing about this, and so I figured I'd do a little bit of research. I'm in no way an expert, but I did read someplace where the county has $174,000 that they're spending on this, part of their match, which is a lot of money. I also read where it was for immersion recreation. Well, that to me is swimming, and Spring Creek starts in Custer County by the Boy Scout camp, and it goes into Sheridan Lake. I don't know any place along there you can swim. I hunt that quite extensively. I duck hunt it. I also hunt mountain lions, and if I want to cut mountain lion tracks, I go up Spring Creek, and you can't go up Spring Creek any place when the ice is on and not see mountain lion tracks, because the mountain lions run Spring Creek. It'd be also a pretty dangerous place to swim unless you were really supervised, I think. Also, I run a trap line on Spring Creek. I guess that could be part of immersion recreation because my traps are under the water, so maybe that's a stretch. But I haven't seen any money needed to be spent on it. And so I'm glad that you're exasperated with this, because if you're spending $174,000 of the county's money and you don't know what it's for, I mean, it looks like it could be a boondoggle. I don't know what the DENR is, if it's just, is it Obama money or whatever it is, but I mean, I think it just needs some oversight. And so you guys don't look bad by, even if it's $800,000, it isn't ours, our county's. If $174,000 of it is, which I did read, that doesn't look right to me. So I just would recommend to have maybe an independent source do an oversight on it. I'm a retired Army officer, I guess the Inspector General, so I would say I don't know what you do in civilian life, but somebody needs to look into this so that we all don't look foolish either. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Anything further on this subject? Thank you.
Dan Richer. I just want to state the TMDL for Sheridan Lake says that the only problem in Sheridan Lake is the temperature. It's okay for immersion. It specifically states it's okay for swimming, it's okay for skiing, motorboating, fishing, everything. Yet Spring Creek, which is the primary source that goes into it, is contaminated. So you got two TMDLs that are completely conflicting with each other. So.
Mr. Chair, one of the things that they find, I think, wrong with some of the readings is in Spring Creek, you can surely you can have one reading in Spring Creek, and when you get to Sheridan Lake, you can have another. And the federal government calls that cleanliness by dilution. So that could be the problem with why we're getting different readings in Sheridan and Spring Creek itself.
Just one last thing. I read someplace too that was pig manure that causes E. coli. I'd be willing to bet a lot of money that there isn't one pig from the Boy Scout camp to Sheridan Lake. I mean, there isn't one pig, and there's no wild pigs in the Black Hills. They can't live here, so there isn't. Whoever put that pig manure in there, that's got to be false.
Mr. Chair, I think that came up at one of the meetings about the pig manure thing, and I think that was a generalized statement by some government bureaucrat in Denver that put that together, but it was a general statement that says this is how those things can happen. Pig manure down the line.
I think if you explored it, and I'm not going to personally, but in the field of microbiology, I think you'll find evolving technology that allows scientists to more clearly and definitely define some of these organisms. And some of it goes back to using DNA and databases, and I would almost bet that the database that was being used at the time this pig manure was identified has changed from then till now, and if you could duplicate exactly the analysis of those samples, that you might find a different answer. And we're all poking at something that none of us are exactly qualified to deal with. And the question becomes, what actions should governing bodies take? And rather than go through this again, as Commissioner Buskerud indicated, at some point, if this commission says we're done, we will be done. If we say we will continue, then the continuation will be done in a manner acceptable to all of the monitoring people, the state auditor general, our auditor, all the procedures, everybody that monitors the actions of this government, to see that the proper procedures are followed, will be brought into it, and unless someone is party to that and can point out specific violations of the law, I think we can move on from the 2002-2003 water samples and get current on this thing and make some evaluations and put it to bed one way or another. Any action by the commission at this point in time?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion. I'm not sure what it is. I mean, if we don't do make a motion, we'll be back here next meeting doing the same thing again. And talking about the same thing, and Stephanie will be here saying the same thing, and her husband will be here telling us we don't know what we're doing. So, Dan, you've heard we need the test results of what's gone on the last year. If we're doing it, let's have them. And I don't know if it takes a motion to get him to do that, or Dan has heard the arguments. He knows what we're looking for, I think. But what would you rather have? You want a motion?
Are you comfortable?
I would like the presentation, yeah.
So that everybody hears the presentation.
It may not be next meeting.
Nope.
May not be next meeting.
Until we back up, look this thing over, there's no use going through this exercise repeatedly and ending up wondering what motion we're going to make. So Well, I'm going to, as chair, declare this subject closed and move on to the planning and zoning consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to take a 10-minute break.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is item 29, items from planning and zoning.
Where the Board of Commissioners uses a consent calendar to act upon a non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and the vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of the board member or a citizen. The consent agenda for the planning and zoning contains the following items. Item A, the Spring Creek Watershed Management Project Implementation Plan, approval of payment application for Alton and Barbara Bertschinger, SPC 2011 PC 54, to be continued per the applicant's request. Item B is the Spring Creek Watershed Management and Project Implementation Plan Advisory Group appointments. This is to be postponed indefinitely. Item C is the preliminary plat 12-36 and a subdivision regulation variance 12-12 for Kathy Boyum. Approval is recommended. Item D is the first reading and a public hearing of a major planned unit development amendment PU 12-03 for Kathy Boyum. Approval is recommended. And item E is the first reading and a public hearing of rezoning request 12-10 for Kathy Boyum, and approval is recommended.
You've heard the reading of the consent agenda items for planning and zoning. Does anyone wish to pull any of the items off the calendar? Mr. Richter.
Mr. Chairman, Dan Richter. I'd like to remove item B for discussion, which is the advisory group appointment.
Do you wish to debate whether or not the...
I'd like to see it disbanded until you guys make a decision and if you're going to spend some money or not.
The advisory group appointments are being postponed indefinitely, and that is not what is... Your question is not on the agenda.
I would like to have item B removed.
So you want to question the recommendation that's on there?
Since I belong to an elected body that is represented in that group, I would like to discuss it.
Okay, item B is removed, and we'll go on from there. Any other items? If not, Chair would entertain a motion on items A, C, D, and E.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to pass items A, E, D, and E, C, D, and E on the planning and zoning consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item B. You have the floor, Mr. Farby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to know how I should advise my fellow directors when this item comes up. We're scheduled for a special meeting tomorrow, and that's up in the air at this point. That's a side issue. If whether we meet tomorrow or not, I would like to know how to advise the other directors of the West Dakota Water Development District.
Advise them of what?
As to the West Dakota Water Development District's participation in the Spring Creek Advisory Group.
At this point, my understanding is that segment 2 of the Spring Creek project is underway, or that's where we're moving to. And in terms of the structuring and staffing of the advisory group itself, since there were no specific parameters set on phase 1, that it appears to be logical and beneficial to have an understood structure surrounding the advisory group as it relates to the contractor, as it relates to Pennington County. And that is not yet done, and that's the basis for the postponement. So how to advise your group, I cannot tell you.
I think I heard you say a number of words, quite a number of words. And what I got from those words was a blank. Who's going to decide what when? Let's just put it in simple terms. Who is going to decide what when?
I think that the decision relative to who is going to decide rests with this commission. When, there's no time limit set at this point in time. And so I cannot give you an answer, and if I did, I'd be guessing.
I'd like to remind this commission that we take money out of Pennington County taxpayers. I'll repeat. We, West Dakota, take money out of every one of your pockets. Glenn's on, yeah, we take out of Glenn's pocket. On the side of Wasta, we don't take money. But we take money from Wasta to Wyoming. We, West Dakota, and we spend it partially on this project. So we have a vested interest. We're not a bystander. We have a vested interest in what goes on, so we should be party to that. Now, let me also remind you, that's the first reminder. The second reminder is that Santa Claus, Pete Jarvish, I don't have the letter with me, I'm sorry, but he suggested about a year ago that West Dakota should have this project, not the Pennington County Commission. That's documented. Segment 1, Segment 2, I have copies of them. They're not a signature. How many times have I heard, affix the signature, affix the signature, affix the signature? Chairman's signature. I've heard that over and over and over. But the TMDL,
how does this relate to the advisory committee?
It relates to why we're doing this. There's nothing signed. You mentioned segment 1, phase 1, it's segment 1, that's the words they use. There's no signature. Anybody can sit down and type up a bunch of papers. There's no signature affixed to that. There's no signature affixed to segment 2. So what is your authority for doing anything? Period. Once again, we are elected officials. My fourth point is volunteers. I've heard it over and over and over. Volunteers on these projects from 1964 to 1972, 8 years of Vietnam War. A whole bunch of us, thousands of us, volunteered for the Navy and the Air Force. We weren't volunteers by Webster standard. I don't know Ron's status. Were you a pure volunteer, or were you induced like I was?
I volunteered to be in the United States Army immediately after I was drafted.
Okay. So you were a volunteer. Yeah. We misuse this word volunteer. Nancy used the word that you folks volunteered to do this project. That's it. You volunteered to do it. There was no absolute inducement. Some federal money. Let's quit spending money. There's no problem on Spring Creek. Turn the project over to West Dakota. We'll take care of it. Okay?
So you're actually proposing that as an alternative?
Absolutely. And I think I have enough votes on the board to accept the project. And then you folks, and I know Ron would be happy, and I think Don would be happy to see it gone. We'll take it. We'll take it, and we'll deal with the EPA. I'm not afraid of the EPA. You know, 10 years ago, I stood up here, and I think Ken remembers, I came back with a piece of document from EPA that says not only won't they deal with septic tanks, individual on-site wastewater systems, they can't by their own rules. They're off limits to them. But give us this project, turn it over to West Dakota, and we'll take care of it.
I'm going to say this, that if West Dakota and the membership on the board does not respect the protocol of an official meeting any more than what I've just seen, by straying from the subject of the advisory board, the meeting should be quite interesting. Now, I've never known anyone to be able to stop an avalanche from the bottom. And if you think you're going to stop Agenda 21 or any of the rest of this stuff from the EPA here in this room, I think you're looking at it from the wrong end.
I'll accept that challenge, sir. And I served for 20 years, and by golly, this is my 50th anniversary of getting the draft notice. I was going to save it for public comments, but I'll use it now. 50 years ago, the government made me a promise, United States government. If I didn't show up for a physical, they would throw me in jail. Okay? It took 40 years later before I went to jail, but for a different reason. But we have an obligation, we have a duty. The South Dakota Constitution talks about frugality. When the hell's the last time you ever saw that applied at any level of government? With all due respect, sir, this fella served over 30 years. I served over 20 years. We have a duty to do what our founding fathers gave us to do.
Okay. The subject is closed. The item.
I wanted to say one thing. No. You got.
We're done. We're done.
Just one thing.
We're done.
Can I just say one thing?
No.
We can stop Agenda 21, but it starts with local folks like you, and we the people elect our public servants and who took an oath of office to defend the Constitution, and we expect you to do that. And President Garfield said that if we allow this corrupt behavior, that's what we're going to have in government. But no, we say we want you to stand with your oath of office. You guys took one. The police took one. You are here to protect America. They changed the oath through the time to protect the Constitution because of foreign nations coming in here. So that it is your duty for that oath of office here. Thank you.
So I'll tell the West Dakota board that totally up in the air. The advisory group status is totally up in the air. Is that what I should tell the other directors?
That's your call.
No, I'm asking you. What should I tell the directors?
I told you what the situation was, so you tell them whatever you want.
Thank you, sir.
Next item, item B, disposition of that item by the board.
I move to postpone indefinitely the advisory group appointments.
Second. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Because I voted aye also. Okay, item F.
Item F is a vacation of a section line VS 1202 for Heartland Country Ranchettes. John Preston as the agent to vacate 3,500 feet of a section line right-of-way. It's located between Elkin Lane and Dewey Lane in Spring Creek Acres, about 2.5 miles east of Highway 79 off of Doffinbaugh Road. It involves 47.91 acres. This has been verified by the auditor's office that all the correct signatures have been collected and verified. And it is currently located 5 acres, or I should say 5 parcels, and they range in size from 5.8 to 22.9 acres. Only one of the lots has existing structures. There has been a building permit that's been issued for another one of them. The structure is right in the middle of the section line. In order for them to proceed, the building permit has not been issued, but in order for them to get approval of that building permit, they do need to vacate this section line. Spring Creek Acres is a planned unit development. They do have a 25-foot setback from all property lines. The section line does require a 58-foot section or setback from that. In order for them to build that, they could get a variance to reduce that setback, or they can vacate the section line, and that is the procedure that they've proceeded with. The area has been developed. There's access roads to and from this area. The section line would appear to have minimal impact to the public, and staff is recommending approval of the section line right-of-way vacation with one condition.
Any discussion by the commission? Any questions?
So the one condition, Dan, would you want to read your condition into the record?
Sure, that all necessary resolutions and exhibits vacating the section line right-of-way be recorded by the applicant at the Register of Deeds office.
I'd make a motion to...
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Secretary, get the motion. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Committee reports.
I don't have anything today, Mr. Chair.
I don't either, Mr. Chair.
Okay. We'll move on to items from the public. Mr. Lochner.
The school board was a piece of cake compared to you folks' job. That's all I got to say. You can have your job. I wasn't part of it.
Oh, come on, Glenn.
What I came here for is to see about getting a permit or however you have to do to put a gate across a section line. This gate would be only used occasionally. I've got a problem with water and grass like a lot of people, and I've got grass, but the grass without water is not worth anything. And I have did this gate and put this gate up, and I hesitate to call him a neighbor, but he's my neighbor, and he is protesting this gate. And the irony of it was that's the same gate that he used for years off and on, so he could turn his cows out on his side, and he used my gate so they wouldn't come down into my pasture, see. And he is going over and opening my gate at whenever he feels like it, in the middle of the night, or I guess, or I seen him one time pretty close to darkness, and he went over, and he's not using the road. He just goes over, drives down, opens the gate, and leaves. And I guess you can do that with a gate on a section line and not any trouble. This section line is a trail. It's a trail, and people drive in and out on it, and the county uses it. Heine hauls gravel out of it occasionally. Our township hauls gravel out of it occasionally. But without this water, of course, my grass is worthless to me. And so I would like the permission to be able to do this on a temporary basis and not get in hot water over this, and to maybe put a stop to him letting my cows out. He got the jump on me Sunday night, and my cows got out and tore up one of my renter's bale a little bit, and so I will make it right with my renter, of course. And I just, like I said, I just don't, this gate is open probably 11 months out of the 12 months because that pasture is only good for about a month, maybe 6 weeks at the very most. And so the rest of the time that gate is wide open. You can go in and out. Anybody can go in and out and do go in and out. And so that's what I'm looking for is the deputy paid me a call last night, or yesterday afternoon, I should say. And he was real courteous, and I've had problems before with this fellow, and it stems back to when he was using my gate. He went and erected a fence on my side of the right-of-way. And when Deputy Weaver come out, and he put 3 gates. I had 3 gates to get in and out if I wanted to use the road, which I was doing. I hauled rock and rip-rop dams and stuff like that out of that pit. And it involves 12 stops for every round trip. You open the gate, then you stop again, you shut the gate with a loaded truck, you start from the bottom and mixing stick and work your way up. And finally, I will admit, after desperation one day, his gates were one of them was 54 feet wide or long. And if you ever shut a gate and it's 54 feet long, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm not the guy I used to be, and it's difficult to do. And so, yes, I cut the gate finally in desperation, and my neighbor called Deputy Weaver down, and his letter took my side, and so of course that made this fellow angry yet. So the deputy told him take this quarter-mile of fence out of Lochner's side of the trail, and if you want to put your cows in there, put one on your side. And so this is his revenge. So I was a little late to even get to the meeting here. I guess I was early enough, but I was over making sure the gate was shut before I left. Right now, hopefully, my wife is watching the gate. The gate is about a little over a mile and a quarter from my house, and it's a 2.5 mile drive to get to it. So I don't know what the procedure is, but
Jay, can you help us on this at all?
I missed the early part. Is this on a
section line?
Section line or approved section line?
Unimproved.
Well, they might call it improved because there was this little bit of little gravel sprinkled on it. Some of it I did, and I put quite a little pit run. If there was a real bad hole, I put pit run gravel in there at my own cost and my own effort, and then if anything that was put over top of that was a little bit of gravel, very little, but it's all grass, most of it, except this little trail down the middle.
I can share with you what I know about unimproved and improved section lines with regard to fencing and gating, and then I guess you can ask me questions from there if I haven't answered it. Unimproved section lines, it's my understanding in statute, a landowner can put a gate on an unimproved section line without seeking the permission of the county commission. That gate has to be unlocked. So every person in the world has the right to go down that unimproved section line and should be able to do that unimpeded. Open that gate, close it again. On improved section lines, you do have to come to the county commission to get approval to put a gate across. I don't know where we're at here. Is this?
Still, again, I'd say we're an unimproved section line.
So on an unimproved section line, you can fence it off, but you have to, where that section line is, the person fencing it off has to provide an unlocked gate so anybody can help themselves.
And anybody who leaves the gate open is responsible for liability, the damages that may occur therefrom?
That probably,
if you can ever prove who did it.
suppose that would be maybe a reasonable extension of that. If you can put the fence across it and gate it, there's probably a reason you're doing that. And if somebody opens it up and livestock get out or something happens, then there'd be a potential civil action, one party against the other, not the government involved, but between neighbors or whoever.
I concur with what he said. That's
okay. Let's look at another scenario. I saw the map that you had. You know, you showed. No, that's all right. But it looked to me like the gate area. Shortly after you go through the gate onto your property, you start going down in the breaks a little bit to get to the gravel pit.
right.
And the section line keeps going straight. How much from where you put the gate to where the road departs from what would be the trail departs from the section line, how long a space is that?
It's well, actually, it goes down there straight there east there for less than a quarter of a mile. It turns it before it gets, completely half mile down or whatever. It turns and cuts across the corner of my property, and I don't know whether you'd call that actually, I'd call it a dead end road because it ends up in my gravel pit. It's not.
What I'm getting at is it feasible, possible for you to get the portion of the section line that's on your property abandoned and eliminate the ongoing issue of whether it is or isn't?
Well, sooner or later, it gets into my pasture. Someplace along the line, if I wish to use this pasture, I've got to put a fence, a gate across. And I've been down there. Well, I'm 83 years old, and I've been down there all my life except for a few years, and I come back in '59, and I have used that gate occasionally, but not. I had never left it shut all year long. It was open, and because I use it myself, and the county uses it, and the township uses it, and it's just it's a burden right now, I'll tell you. I don't dare turn my back, and I hope my wife's still sitting on the job. She wanted to go to Rapid today, and I said, you've got a project here.
One thing, how much longer are you going to have cattle in there?
The renter has it until the 1st of November, and usually he can find a truck to haul them out. We took him in the. Oh, let's see. We took him in the 6th. It was on a Sunday because that's the only time he has off. He works 6 days a week, and it was the second Sunday in November. So they've only been in there a little over a week.
The reason I asked that question is that we cannot take action today on anything that's in the public comment portion, and didn't know if the timing was going to be a real problem for you, or if you.
Well, Lindell, I can live through this, but this is going to be a reoccurring problem. I'd like to have it solved, and yeah, I can get along with this. I don't mind going over 2-3 times a day if I have to. Anything to keep the cows off where they belong.
Long-term.
Pardon?
You're looking for a long.
Yes, I wish for a long term. I'm just kind of like you folks were this with some of the stuff you've been beating around. You want to get it out of the way, and you want to get it settled. You don't want to live with it.
We've been known not to do anything right.
Mr. Chairman, I have no problem with declaring it an improved road and giving him permission to put a gate up, but see, that's not going to do anything for you, because whether it's improved, unimproved, whether you put a gate up or whether we give you permission, you can't lock it either way. So I don't know if we can help you any.
Well, I think maybe that after Deputy Weber got through with him, maybe he would believe the sheriff if he said, hey, he's got a right to put a gate across there. You better not, go in there and keep opening it.
Yeah, that may be.
I also have contemplated, he's got a section line also that I could probably force him to put 3 gates on it and drive across his field to use it. He's farming the section line, so I'm considering that option too, but I'd rather not continue. I don't want to perpetuate this argument. I want it to die.
Some arguments live a long time, don't they?
I'll agree with you on that one.
Okay.
So, I knew you couldn't do it today. I read that on your agenda, but I just wanted to have if I could get it done the long term.
We'll go to work on it.
Right.
Good to have you here.
What is there anything more to do on it
We'll get squared away and make sure if there's an application of some kind you have to fill out or something, we'll get it done.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Anything else?
Dan Richard, Mr. Chairman, is this in Robert's rules where you can't act during items from the public?
I don't think Robert's rules has anything to do with.
Is it statutes?
Part of the procedure, and Holly, can you comment?
Open meeting statutes? Okay. That's.
Are you comfortable with that
Yep.
explanation?
Yeah, I'm just I've heard you say that several times. I'm kind of getting curious about it. One what?
It's in 125 somewhere, Dan. I don't know exactly what the subchapter is.
Anything else from the public?
Just briefly, I'd like to make a comment or two about something that happened 2 or 3 years ago, maybe it's 4. Time gets away. We were talking about this favorite issue of ours, the Spring Creek and wastewater and septics and so on and so forth. And a gentleman came up to the podium and made a very eloquent set of comments about bureaucracy. I listened intently and took his words to heart and certainly agreed with his words. In summary, basically, he said that this gentleman said that he's never seen a bureaucracy go away or decrease in size, always grow. Thank you.
Anything further? If not, next item on the agenda is executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Executive session and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I'll make a motion to offer the Hill City, the Keystone, and the Wall Libraries a contract for 2013 along the lines of our budget discussions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anything further? If not,
Motion to adjourn?
for adjournment.
Second.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Commissioner Holloway, seconded by Commissioner Troutman to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.